Today, I want to talk about something that I know many of us struggle with, the decision around becoming a mother and the resentment and jealousy that can come with the idea that we could have made a different choice. For many of us, especially millennials, motherhood wasn't exactly a choice. The child-free movement wasn't really a thing for us. We didn't have the freedom to decide if we wanted to be child-free or not, and instead, we were pushed into this path without that opportunity. For those of us who came from single or low-income homes, or even those who grew up in two-parent households but experienced trauma, motherhood was more about survival or a reaction to our past than a true, informed decision. I want to dive into that, how trauma influences these decisions, and how we can heal while navigating motherhood. If you're a mom who's feeling overwhelmed or conflicted, I see you, and I want you to know that it's okay to feel these things. First, let's talk about regret. It's something that a lot of mothers feel, but don't always feel safe to talk about. It's easy to think that if you regret your decision to have children, it means you don't love them. That's simply not true. You can love your kids with all your heart, yet still feel regret or even resentment because, well, sometimes life doesn't give us the freedom to choose. For many of us, trauma plays a huge role in these decisions. Remember, it's okay to feel complex emotions about motherhood. You don't have to have it all figured out, and you don't have to hide your feelings. You are deserving of healing, peace, and freedom. Take the time to explore what you need, honor your feelings, and reach out for support when you're ready. I know for myself, I grew up without a solid family foundation. I was desperate to have my own family, perhaps for selfish reasons, but those are real emotions. Many of us make decisions based on the trauma we carry, and that's okay. What's important is that we acknowledge it. Understanding the why behind our choices is a huge step toward healing. But jealousy doesn't have to turn into resentment. It's okay to admit that it stings, but it's also important to separate their path from your own. They have the freedom of choice, and while we may not have had that, we can still celebrate their right to choose without letting it diminish our own journey. Being honest about our jealousy allows us to dig deeper into our unmet needs. Maybe what we're really jealous of is not just the freedom, but the ability to make choices that align with our personal desires. That's a place we can heal from. By asking ourselves questions like, what is it that I really need? We can start to understand ourselves better, which brings us to self-acceptance. Now, let's talk about single mothers, because I know so many of us, particularly single mothers who came from low-income homes, are carrying the extra weight of responsibility. Single motherhood in particular can feel isolating. When you're doing it all alone and feeling like there's no support, resentment can creep in. Not because you don't love your children, but because sometimes the burden feels too much to carry on your own. For single mothers, trauma is often a big factor. Trauma from the past, whether it's growing up in instability, financial hardship, or emotional wounds, can influence how we decide to become mothers. Many women in these situations didn't feel like they had the option to choose or that they had enough support to make a decision for themselves. This often creates feelings of regret and sometimes resentment about the path they're on. But it's important to remember that these feelings are valid. And let's not forget, even women who grew up in two-parent households can experience trauma. Just because a home was two-parent doesn't mean it was a stable or emotionally supportive environment. Trauma can stem from neglect, emotional abuse, or other challenges that aren't always visible. For many women, the impact of this kind of trauma can deeply influence their decision-making when it comes to motherhood. If you're feeling trapped by regret or resentment about the children you already have, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent, it just means you're human. Acknowledging those feelings without judgment is the first step in healing. You don't have to live in shame about it. In fact, it's critical to separate who you are as a parent from who you are as a person. Your identity is bigger than just being a mom. Healing comes when we start to reclaim our identity outside of motherhood. Self-care, support, and setting boundaries are necessary tools in order to navigate the demands of motherhood while also healing from past wounds. And here's where you can get support. If you've been struggling with your emotions and trauma, know that you don't have to do this alone. Reaching out to a life coach who specializes in trauma can be a huge step toward healing. As someone who works with trauma and self-healing through deserving and healing, I help guide people through unpacking their trauma, understanding how it impacts their choices, and starting the journey toward emotional freedom. Before you go, drop a comment below if you've ever felt overwhelmed in motherhood and then felt guilty for it. You're not alone, and your voice might help someone else feel seen too. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like. It helps more women find this message through the algorithm. And make sure to subscribe, because in part 2, I'll be diving deeper into what regretful parenting really looks like and how we can begin to heal from it without shame. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being open to healing, even just a little. I hope you'll stick around. Wishing you peace and gentleness on your journey. God bless.